Guys, so it's me, Elizabeth, here with another video. Today I work this evening, so I thought I would make a video about pumping. I thought maybe that could be helpful for you guys on how to maximize your pumping output without any supplements. So go ahead and keep watching if you want to learn more about that. First off, I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about breast milk and pumping breast milk and how much baby needs and things like that. So breast milk is a live substance, and your body changes the content of that substance based on what baby needs. So it changes the antibodies, the fats, all that good stuff based on what babies need. And so when baby is nursing off of you, their saliva and how they nurse and everything actually works with the supply and demand to, one, make the perfect output, and two, works with your body to make the best substance for them. So that being said, you do not need to increase the amount of breast milk that you're giving a baby based on their age like you do with formula. So a baby who's a month old will probably take the same amount of breast milk as a baby who's 9 months old, but what you're making is going to be different. So babies will need 1 to 1.25 ounces of breast milk per hour that they are away from their mother. This does not change. This remains the same across the board. Now, you might notice a slight increase in need if there's a growth spurt, but generally speaking, that 1 to 1.25 ounces rule stands firm. So typically, baby will not take more than 4 ounces of breast milk at a time. It is also very important to make sure that whoever is feeding your baby is practicing paced bottle feeding using the smallest and slowest flow nipple available, and that they are not using your milk as a way to pacify the baby constantly. Whereas on the breast, your baby might want to nurse. Their nursing isn't not necessarily always getting them something, because babies also nurse because they're bored, they're scared, for comfort, they're teething, they're hurting, and so they control how much milk they're actually getting out. Whereas with the bottle, especially if you're not paced bottle feeding, you're just holding them and dumping the milk in, they won't be able to control the flow of milk that they're getting. So all of those things are very important, and breastfed babies typically need between 24 and 30 ounces of milk per day, their whole breastfeeding experience. Obviously that'll decrease after a year and when you're introducing solids and stuff, but even when solids have been introduced, breast milk should be the baby's primary form of nutrients. Something to keep in mind is after about 3 to 4 months, your supply is going to regulate. So you might be getting less when you pump, probably storing less in the freezer, which can be a little bit scary, but just know that your body is making what your baby needs. So as long as you're pumping, every 3 hours while you're at work and using all of your tools, and you're making enough for baby for the next day, you should be fine. Don't worry that you don't have enough to store, because storing is not the point. People really worry about, in the early days, building up a stash, but that's not necessary. What you pump on Tuesday should be baby's milk for Wednesday, etc., etc., etc. If you are ever struggling with your supply, and this means that baby is not having enough wet or poopy diapers, is losing weight, has fallen significantly off the breastfeeding growth curve, it is always a good idea before starting any supplements ever, and that's over the counter or prescription, to meet with an international board certified lactation consultant. There are many reasons why your supply might be an issue, and only about 5 to 10% of women don't actually make enough milk to supply a baby. So some of those problems could be on the mom's end: PCOS, hypothyroid, not enough glandular breast tissue. Some of those could be on the baby side, so a lip or tongue tie might not be helping them transfer. They might have a weak jaw. They could have an allergy to dairy, and so the milk is just running through them and causing them to have a lot of GI issues. So those are all things that you can discuss with an international board certified lactation consultant, as well as your pediatrician, although the lactation consultant will have more knowledge on breastfeeding exclusively. Okay guys, so now that I've gotten all that out of the way, I'll go ahead and tell you some of my tips for pumping more at work. So one of my first tips that I think is so helpful is getting a bra like this. This is the Lancino brand. It is an adjustable handless pumping bra. So it fits right in the front. Let me show you, and obviously you wouldn't be wearing clothes when you use this, but it zips right up, and it has a place where your flange will actually fit in. This is nice. You can pump both breasts at the same time while doing other things with your hands. And you also, what I do with my hands when I'm using the pumping bra is I really massage my breasts while I'm pumping. This increases my pumping output exponentially. And I actually, if I don't massage my breasts, I get significantly less milk after my letdown. So that's something that I do that really, really helps increase my pumping output. Another thing that's very helpful if you are on a time constraint when you're pumping is to actually bring a clean Ziploc bag with you and place your pump parts in them. That way, in between pumping for the whole day that you're pumping, you can not wash your pump parts, put them in the bag and put them in the refrigerator, and then when you get home that day, thoroughly wash and sanitize your pump parts. That way, instead of wasting 5 minutes washing your pump parts every single time, you can take that additional 5 minutes to pump. Water is delicious, and it is going to help increase your pump output because if you're dehydrated, your pumping output is going to decrease. Something that helps a lot of people with their pumping output, especially to create a letdown, is to have something that smells like baby, a blanket, or watch videos of your baby on your phone. Things like that can really help people with their pumping output. Something else that is important to note with pumping, now I have the Medela pump and style, are these little membranes right here. As these guys wear out, your pumping output will decrease because the suction will be less. So these need to be replaced pretty frequently. Whenever you notice an issue with your pumping decreasing, I always replace these guys. I believe it's recommended for if you're pumping quite frequently to replace them once a month. You can see here how there's no gapping in between the yellow and the white piece. This one has been replaced recently. Now I'm going to do something with my finger. Now if your pump part did this by itself, you would know it was time to replace. If it was gapping down like that and not providing that real tight seal, then you would know it's time to go ahead and replace the membranes. You can get a pack of membranes. I just keep them in my pumping bag, so I always have them handy. Something else to look into if you're having issues with not being able to pump enough is when you're at home with baby, doing skin to skin and letting them nurse as frequently as possible. Breastfeeding is supply and demand, so those things can definitely help. And if you're having issues with baby not even wanting to latch, something that can be helpful is power pumping. Now power pumping mimics the cluster feeding that babies do as they need your supply to increase. I will leave a link below that explains power pumping. It's not something that I've personally done, but I've heard people have a lot of success with doing it a few days in a row. One thing that helps me with comfort when I'm pumping, which then helps me to pump a little bit more and get a little bit more milk out, is actually using some coconut oil. This is my little tub. As you can see, it's almost done. I need to go replace this. I use virgin, unrefined, cold pressed coconut oil on my nipples. I put a little bit on before I start pumping, and that helps reduce the friction of your nipple in the flange. Now, another important thing to note is that not all flanges are created equal. Just like everybody's breasts are different, everybody's nipples are different. So you want to make sure that the flange that you have, it actually fits your nipple well. Too big or too small, and you're not going to be getting as much milk. I will leave a link below on how to properly size flanges. Last but not least, relax. Breastfeeding is a bodily function, and so like many bodily functions, if your stress level is high, you're not going to perform as well. So when you're pumping, try and take a deep breath. Try not to look so much at what you're making. Just massage, watch your baby videos, take a little chill pill, drink some water, and just know that you are doing what's best for your baby to give them breast milk. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope some of those tips were helpful. If you have any other questions, please leave them down below, as well as any comments or suggestions on how you find yourself pumping more milk. Bye, guys.